This is your First Alert Weather Breakdown, a deep dive into how weather works with meteorologist CJ Cartledge.
Good morning, everyone. I'm First Alert Meteorologist CJ Cartledge here. Welcome to a new work week here around the Arklatex, and welcome to another day at that. We have started off with mostly sunny conditions across the area, mainly due to and thanks to that high pressure system that is currently parked over the midsections of the country as we speak here. We're going to be diving into the forecast. It's not looking pretty busy. It's not looking busy at all through the next couple of days, or at least throughout this work week coming up, and we are going to be seeing not too much really go on heading into the weekend as well. But in the tropics, things are getting a little bit busy out there in those parts of just outside of the country. So let's dive right into the forecast here, looking at our KSLA tower camera sponsored by John Harvey Toyota. We are seeing some patchy clouds overhead right now, mainly heading in from the north. We will be receiving northerly winds, which means winds coming out of the north through the daytime hours today. And we should see pretty much the same windy conditions as we move through out this work week that we have here that we are now starting. But as you can see, calm and quiet conditions are on display across the Arklatex as of right now. And taking a quick look at infrared satellite and radar, there is storms at the far eastern and far western portions of the country, mainly associated with the tropical storms or tropical systems that are out there as of right now. I'm going to take myself off the screen so that you guys can see it. There is Tropical Storm Imelda right there just to the east of Florida. It's expected to impact or indirectly impact the Atlantic East Coast by bringing some high surf conditions and possibly rip currents, as well as heavy rainfall for some areas along the immediate coast there. But right behind it to the east of Imelda is Category 4 major hurricane Humberto, and is now expected to stay at sea, as you can see here, but it's expected to come very, very close to Imelda and pretty much pull Imelda away from any types of landfall. If Humberto was not so close to Imelda would more than likely run into portions near or make direct landfall into the Carolinas or into Georgia through the next couple of days here. But zooming into the Arklatex, we are seeing mostly dry conditions as of right now, as you can see there, with a little bit of some moisture far west of us over in western Texas. And we are going to be seeing these conditions through the day today, maybe a couple of clouds, but that's pretty much going to be it across the area. Here's a look at our temperatures right now across the region. 81 by Shreveport, same for Minden, 78 by Natchitoches, 76 for Florine, 75 by Carthage, 78 for Mount Pleasant, and temperatures are well on their way to making their highs or reaching their highs towards the upper 80s and some even the lower 90s out there across the region for this afternoon. 89 by 4 p.m. into the 70s again just after the sun sets on this beautiful Monday that we are in now today. But highs for today, 91 near Texarkana, 89 for New Boston, 90 for Atlanta, 90 for Doddridge, 89 for Foreman, 88 for DeQueen, and over by Nashville, Hope, and Stamps, and Prescott looks to be at around 90 degrees as well. We are expecting the more than likely the upper 80s and lower 90s across most areas around the Arklatex here. Moving over to East Texas, we're looking at 89 by Carthage, potentially 93 near Henderson. They're normally the warmest portion around the Arklatex on a day-to-day basis. 86 by Gilmer, and Longview sitting around 88 degrees for a high today. 91 by Shreveport, 90 by Bienville, Jonesboro, Natchitoches, Winfield, all at 90 degrees for today in terms of highs. But forecast highs for the next 5 days shows a pretty similar pattern, maybe a couple of degrees higher heading into the middle to late part of our work week. But we are expecting pretty much the same conditions heading into this weekend, with highs still in the lower 90s and upper 80s across the region, which is above the average for this time of year across everywhere around the Arklatex. Maybe 1 or 2 areas will be right at the normal in terms of highs, but most areas will be above the average for this time of year in terms of temperatures through the next 5 days ahead. Our temperature outlook for the next 6 to 10 days shows that we will continue these above average temperatures not only through the next 5 days, but through the next 6 to 10 days as well, including Shreveport and Bossier and areas around the Arklatex. And that extends all the way into portions of Florida, all the way far into the north and eastern United States, which should be more than likely above average for this time of year, more likely than us here in the Arklatex. But we are expecting cooler than average conditions over by the Pacific Northwestern states there. But they should see near normal temperatures through the next 8 to 14 days and above average temperatures for once again most of the country through the next 8 to 14 days, moving into the first couple of weeks of October. Here's a look at the precipitation outlook, though. We're expecting below average precipitation, as you saw through, as you may have seen through the 7-day forecast all morning long. No rain chances on the forecast for us, or at least that's what it was yesterday. Maybe a slight chance for rain heading into the later part of the week, but it's not going to be much, pretty much. It's maybe going to be a drop or two out there across the Arklatex region, but most of the Arklatex will be dealing with below average precipitation through the next 6 to 10 days, and through the next 8 to 14 days, we may see near normal precipitation. So that just tells us that we may see a couple more days with isolated showers and storms begin to return, heading towards the 8 to 14 day period of the forecast. Here's a look at our muggy meter. It shows that the humidity will remain fairly low and comfortable here. It'll make us feel comfortable here around the Arklatex. I believe dew points will mainly be in the 50s out there, which is farther away from the actual temperatures, which denotes that a drier air is setting in. Once the dew points reach closer towards temperatures, that's when we get more moist air, and more than likely that's when we start to see rain chances around the Arklatex, and that's higher humidity as well. That means higher humidity as well. But moving through the work week, mainly comfortable conditions before humidity rate may rise slightly to make it feel a little bit muggy out there, but it's going to be bouncing around between comfortable and slightly humid through the next couple of days afterwards, heading into this weekend. But here's a look at first alert tropics here out in the Atlantic. The Hurricane Humberto is now a Category 4 storm once again. It, I believe, decreased to a Category 3 storm overnight before it re-intensified to a Category 4 storm with 145 mile per hour sustained winds. And through this 3-hour loop here, it shows that it was around 130 mile per hour sustained winds storm at around 7:30 to 8 o'clock a.m. this morning. But now at 10:37, it currently stands at 145 mile per hour sustained winds, which is very similar to the strength they had just yesterday here. But the pressure is increasing, denoting the fact that it is also trying to weaken. But the winds at the center of the storm are increasing here. So yes, we are expecting Hurricane Humberto to continue to make its way northward and westward before it makes an eastward turn, heading into the middle to late part of our work week here. Category 4 storm through the rest of today, and by the time we hit early tomorrow morning, it may weaken back to a Category 3 hurricane. By the time we hit our Tuesday afternoon and into Wednesday, Thursday, we should watch that storm slowly trek away from landfall, any types of landfall, and hit the middle of the Atlantic, middle and the northern portions of the Atlantic as well. But it will come very, very close to newly formed tropical storm Imelda, which now currently sits at 60 mile per hour sustained winds. As of the latest update there, as you can see, that pressure is decreasing, so it is intensifying here as it moves closer and closer towards the Atlantic coast near the southeastern United States, but is expected to take a turn towards the east a bit earlier as compared to what we were seeing yesterday with the forecast. That mainly denotes that Hurricane Humberto, mainly because of how close it is in proximity, the stronger storm pulls the other low pressure system which is tropical storm Imelda, the weaker storm, towards it, and it sort of attracts it towards Humberto and makes it follow that storm towards the northern Atlantic Ocean, and actually pulls it away from the Atlantic. And pretty much that is very good news for those along the immediate coast of the southeastern United States. There it could still bring some heavy rainfall, as it may be already doing to those along the Carolina coast as of right now, and the Georgia coast, as well as the Florida coast here. Those along the Florida coast may even be seeing some tropical storm force winds over by areas near Jacksonville, and Miami may also be seeing some tropical storm force winds. But It is not expected that they will see much direct impacts from this storm, as it is expected to take a eastward turn towards the north and east, and potentially, as it does so, reach Category 1 strength and possibly even Category 2 strength at a 100-mile-per-hour sustained winds heading towards the middle of this work week here. So here's a look at our 7-day forecast here in the Arklatex. We could see some slight rain chances by the time we hit our Thursday and Friday, but we should see mostly dry conditions throughout the 7-day period, and even drier conditions through our Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, especially. Lows will remain in the 60s out there, so you can definitely expect comfortable conditions out there across the Arklatex, but we should see the wind directions change from coming out of the north to coming out of the south, which may influence those rain chances to rise slightly heading into our Thursday and Friday. But heading into Saturday and Sunday, rain chances diminished once again, and we'll be seeing above average temperatures remain here in the Arklatex. So fall-like conditions don't look to be possible as we move through the next 7 days ahead. Maybe through the next what I would say 15 to 21 days ahead, but we are not expecting below average conditions here around the Arklatex anytime soon, at least through the next 2 weeks, as we are expecting above average conditions or above average temperatures through the next 6 to 10 days and the next 8 to 14. So coming up after the break, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the show, but we're going to be talking about when the leaves start to change color. And we're also going to be talking about how that process is on how they change color as the conditions get cooler and cooler heading towards the winter season. So coming up after this quick break, we're going to be diving into the details on when we can start to see our first instances of fall foliage and how that process occurs from leaves changing to different colors, as you may see with the yellows and the reds and maybe the oranges and some maybe even still turning or not turning into any different color and staying green. But I'll be talking more about that coming up after this quick break. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. We're going to be diving into what times that certain parts of the country start to see the fall foliage for the year. So let's dive into the first map that we're going to be looking at here for this explanation. As you can see, this is our fall foliage map, a graphic that I just made a couple of days ago here that shows by August 30th, some areas around the country start to see already some fall foliage or leaves starting to change color. They see minimal to patchy fall foliage in areas like the Rocky Mountains and the higher elevations. So those who receive the cooler conditions first. And actually, for some areas in the Rockies, I believe they already seen their first snowfall of the year, or they're very close to seeing their first its bits of snowfall for the year. And it's only September, and I believe they started to see it towards the middle of September as well. But I'll have to be fact checked on that. I'll have to see if they actually receive any types of rain, not rainfall, but snowfall. But for those in the near the Great Lakes region and northern portions of Wisconsin, Michigan, as well as Minnesota, they start to see minimal to patchy fall foliage, as well as the portions near the Appalachian Mountains in western Maryland and West Virginia as well. So higher elevations start to see their fall foliage first. As we move towards September 6th, I believe that says, yes, September 6th, we start to see more areas starting to see fall foliage there. Partial fall foliage starts to appear in those higher elevation areas. I'm going to move myself off the screen so you guys can see those along the southern portion of the Appalachian Mountains start to see their fall foliage as well near the western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee. They start to see their fall foliage or minimal fall foliage by the beginning of September, and that only continues to grow as we move through the month of September. So here's around where we are as of right now. So some areas are past their peak, believe it or not, already of seeing their fall foliage for the year. And that's portions in northwestern Colorado and northeastern, I believe that's in Utah, Nevada. Yes, that's Utah, northeastern Utah there. And there's also portions in Wyoming near the Rocky Mountains have already seen their fall foliage for the year, and they're past the peak in those darker reddish colors that you see there. But for also areas in the higher peaks of the Appalachian Mountains have already seen their fall foliage for the year, or they're either at their peak or past their peak for this time of year. For portions up in the far north and east as well, near Mount Washington and New Hampshire, I'm pretty sure they've already seen or at their peak or already seen their peak fall foliage for the year here. But here, look at us here in the Arklatex. I'm going to draw where we are exactly on the near the Arklatex. Seems like I can't draw on there. So anyways, we have not seen our fall foliage just yet, but we are seeing maybe some patchy fall or patchy areas of leaves changing colors just north of us in northern and western Arkansas there and southern Missouri. Those areas have potentially seen patchy fall foliage there. But let's move on to the beginning of October. So near October 4th, that's this coming Saturday, most areas near them, if not all areas of the Rocky Mountains have seen or passed their peak of fall foliage, as well as the extreme high elevations near the Appalachian Mountains. But that minimal range starts to move more and more southward as we move into October. By the time we hit October 11th, around this time frame, I would give it take it 2 days or 2 days, 1 or 2 days. So around October 11th, you start to see some minimal fall foliage. So that means maybe 1 or 2 areas where you would see some of the leaves start to change colors into yellows or the lighter colors there. But heading into the middle to late part of October is when we could start to see some patchy fall, not patchy fog, but patchy fall foliage out there around the Arklatex. Mainly in the northern, it's going to hit the northern half first as compared to the southern half of the Arklatex, especially in Louisiana. Starting to see minimal fall foliage by the time we hit October 18th or around that day. And heading into the later parts of October, near the Halloween holiday, we should start to see partial fall foliage. So more and more areas will start to see the leaves changing on those trees. And as you can see by this time frame, most of the country, almost half of the country, will already be past their peak for this time of year, near their peak along most of the mid-Atlantic states there, near North Carolina, as well as Virginia, along the Atlantic coast, Maryland, parts of Pennsylvania there, all the cooler areas that are much cooler than the Arklatex during this time of year, but not so much near Florida. I don't believe southern portions of Florida may even see any fall foliage out there, but especially by the time we hit the 1st of November, we should see most areas or most trees start to see their leaves falling off of the trees and their colors changing out there. By the time we hit the middle of November, we should see most areas, or most if not all trees, with with those leaves changing on the trees there. We're going to be near or at the peak, or most areas north of I-20 past their peak for this time of year by the time we hit November 15. And by Thanksgiving, around the Thanksgiving holiday, most of the country will be seeing their fall foliage for the year. It's already been done. So here's a look at the map here, just to show the average fall foliage map. When will the leaves exactly try to change color here? Just to show you guys, if you missed the map just before. By September, those along the Rocky Mountains, northern portions of Minnesota, as well as areas into the far north and eastern portions of the country near New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, higher elevations will already see their fall foliage for the year. That's when they start to see the change in colors of the leaves here. But for the early October areas, for areas surrounding those higher elevations near the Rocky Mountains, same with the areas as mentioned before, and more areas along the Appalachian Mountains will start to see their fall foliage. By mid-October, more areas look to see their fall foliage, mainly in the northern half of the country, with the exception of the Midwestern states like Nebraska, Kansas, most of Missouri will not see their fall foliage just yet until we hit late October. That's when most of the country will be covered in that fall foliage, and most of the northern portions of the country will already seen their fall foliage for the year. But here in the Arklatex, it's pretty much early to mid-November is when we would start to see fall foliage, or at least we would start to see minimal fall foliage by the middle to late part of October, but we won't reach the peak fall foliage, especially by the time we hit our November month here, which is associated with that green color. But for those in the far southern portions of the United States, especially for portions near most of Florida, we'll actually see a little bit of fall foliage, but not by much. But the far southern portions of Florida, far southern portions of Texas, maybe some along the Gulf Coast states there, and even some in the far south and western portion of the country there near southern California and southwestern Arizona may not even see any fall foliage at all, or very little fall foliage out there throughout the fall season here. But why do the leaves actually change color? This is a question that may be raised in some people's heads there. With the cooler weather that's on the way, the tree's chlorophyll, which keeps the leaves green, actually starts to break down, leaving other chemicals that cause color changes there. So when the chlorophyll, the chemical that actually keeps the leaves green throughout the year, keeps the leaves the green color that you see throughout the year, it starts to break down with cooler air that arrives in, and that allows for that green color to start to change towards lighter shaded colors, or then the darker shaded colors that you see in the fall foliage that you usually see every year here. But with the green colors that you see there, it's mainly because of chlorophyll. But once the chlorophyll starts to break down, it starts to turn to xanthophyll when it turns into yellow colors, carotene when it turns into orange colors, and the darker shaded colors, chlorophyll breaks down into anthocyanine. I believe that's how it's pronounced, anthocyanine, for the reddish colors there. But bright colors are more likely when the late summer is dry and autumn has sunny days and cooler nights. So just to read that off again, bright colors are more likely when late summer is dry and autumn has sunny days and cool nights. So we're in the beginning of the autumn season, or the fall season. We're dealing with sunny days and we're dealing with cool nights as of right now. So we may see brighter colors by the time the fall foliage reaches us here in the Arklatex. So that's a pretty interesting thing to look forward to, the fall foliage. More than likely we'll see brighter colors because during the late summer months, later portions of August and into September, we weren't seeing much rain here around the Arklatex, but we saw near normal, I believe around near normal precipitation, but it wasn't anything substantial, like above average for this time of year. But we should more than likely see bright colors as we move towards the beginning of when we will see fall foliage for this time of year. So that's all I have for you guys today. I believe this was a pretty interesting topic. I definitely learned something. I hope you guys learned something too today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll be back on the KSLA First Alert Weather Breakdown tomorrow on your Tuesday, September 30th, for more topics to discuss about the KSLA or about the weather that's going on here around the Arklatex. That topic will be coming out soon, and I will be on the newscast today at KSLA News 12 at noon and 4 p.m. Make sure to tune in for that to hear the latest updates on the tropics and if we will finally see rain again here around the Arklatex by the later on this work week here. So thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. I'll be on the KSLA First Alert Weather Breakdown tomorrow starting at 10:30 a.m. And meteorologist Evan Thomason will be back on the podcast as we move through Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday and started a new work week. And make sure to stay weather aware and stay safe, everyone.